It's Beast Mode time! Welcome back, Beast Army. Today, we're talking about my personal 5 favorite biographies for success. Number 1, Total Recall. Arnold Schwarzenegger's autobiography. Obviously, coming from the entertainment world, he's able to create a pretty entertaining book. The entertainment value was just fantastic. I've already listened to the audiobook twice, and I absolutely love it. It's fun to listen to. What I took away from it is, as we all know, Arnold came from the little Austria in Stuttgart or wherever it was that he came from and became this massive success. It's a great story to hear over and over when I listen to his autobiography, how he keeps pushing. He never stops. He goes from one area in bodybuilding and getting to America, and then he becomes financially successful from selling bodybuilding stuff, kind of like a mail order business. And then he started a concrete laying business, started buying up real estate and made his first couple $1 million in real estate, not the movies. And then he was in the movies, and then he was the freaking governor. And I mean, he just keeps going and going and going. And I'm like, man, I love that so much. It reminds me to keep pushing, to never be satisfied. Even if you achieve some level of success in whatever it is that you're doing, you want to keep pushing. Number 2, Elon Musk's biography by Ashley Vance. Another example of a man who has achieved great success in many different areas of business. Of course, he started out with Zip2. I think he was worth like somewhere around 10, 12 million after that. And then he reinvested, I think like $9 million into X.com, which then became PayPal. By the time he got out of PayPal, I think he was worth over $100 million. And then he took all that and he reinvested that in SpaceX and Tesla and a little bit like 10 million in Solar City. All 3 of those are now ultra successful companies. And now he's one of the most successful people in the world financially. I think the dude's worth over $20 billion. So I love seeing that. And plus, but if nothing else you get from Elon Musk and his biography, it's thinking big. The dude's talking about saving the gosh darn human race by sending us on a spaceship, a rocket ship, to Mars. That's thinking big. When you hear him talk about stuff like that, you're just like, what am I doing with my life? I'm doing this little itty bitty stuff. I gotta think bigger. Definitely a must read. Number 3, Benjamin Franklin's biography by Walter Isaacson. I'm going to be honest, this was not exactly a fun audiobook to listen to, particularly because of its length. It's 33 hours long. It was hellacious to get through. I had to listen to it on 3x speed just to get through the dang book. And I was only like processing about 70% of what was being said, but it was just so dang long. Nonetheless, I think back to the book a lot. So the book has staying power, particularly the fact that this guy was living in the 1700s, 1800s, a long time ago, and was living a way more kick-ass life than I seem to be living. He was doing a lot of cool stuff, a lot of fun stuff. He was in a lot of different fields. He taught himself how to do a lot of cool things, taught himself how to write, and kind of made his own way in business with the printing press and making the newspapers. And he was traveling the world. He was going from Philadelphia, which only had like 20,000 people, by the way, at that time. And then he was traveling all over the United States. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this dude is going on a 6-week one-way journey across the Atlantic Ocean. I can't take like a 6-hour flight across the Atlantic Ocean. So it just made me realize, man, I need to be doing some cooler stuff with my life. This guy was living a pretty awesome life, a really fulfilling life, doing cool stuff back when it was really inconvenient to do cool stuff. There wasn't that much money back then. Transportation wasn't all that quick back then. There wasn't the internet. It wasn't that easy to start businesses back then. I have so many more resources available to me, and yet I'm just not doing that much. So it makes me feel like I gotta step my game up a little bit. So that's why I think it's a fun book to listen to. I would recommend it. Number 4, Steve Jobs' biography by Walter Isaacson. This one is interesting for a different reason, and it's because, unlike most of these other people on this list, he actually had a very serious failure, actually a couple failures and public failures before he had his great successes. Of course, Apple was initially successful, but then, large in part to Jobs' incompetence as a leader, Apple was just, it was crashing and burning. Steve Jobs was ousted from the company. He then took his money and created Next. That business crashed and burned. He then bought Pixar and then eventually went back into Apple, where he then was a superior manager. He was much more effective and efficient as a leader as opposed to where he was initially at Apple. Plus, the way he managed and led Apple as opposed to Pixar were literally at the complete opposite ends of the spectrum. He was very hands-on micromanager of Apple, yet he was hands-off and led from a distance at Pixar. So it gives you a very unique understanding of this man, and also shows that, hey, even the greatest business minds of our generation can still fail, but they persevere, they change, they adapt, they learn, and then they can succeed. Number 5, The Virgin Way, which is Richard Branson's autobiography. This was a fun book to listen to. Richard Branson is obviously quite the entertaining individual. There's a lot of cool stuff that this guy does with his life, a lot of cool business ventures he goes on. So it's interesting to see all the different businesses that he gets into. I believe the Virgin brand to date has over 300 different sub-businesses that are within that core Virgin brand. It's a little bit different as opposed to the people who have like 1 or 2 businesses going at any given time. He has a different approach where he has hundreds of businesses going, and he has a little bit of a different approach to how he manages and tries to build businesses, and also has a different approach, a little bit closer aligned with Elon Musk in terms of how he approaches marketing. It's a very good book. Definitely recommend it. Check it out. One common thread I want to point out is that every single one of these individuals are successful in more than one area. It's not just, well, he started one single company, maybe he got a little lucky with that company, and then he rode that company for the rest of his life. All of these people were successful in multiple areas of business. So that motivates me personally because I see it's not the idea. It's not that they were doing that one thing. These people would be successful at anything. It's the person who is a successful person. It's the person running the business. Until next time, be great, guys.